Record. Okay. Oh, you're in two places at once, Angela. Not now. Okay. You X'd yourself out. Well, I see some European people here. So the time change helped, I guess. No one wants to be up at 2 a.m. to start something. So, I'm not sure how many we're going to have on here, and a couple of people have already contacted me to let me know that they will not be able to be live. They're traveling or doing work with a client or something like that. So we will get started fairly shortly here. I'll wait for a moment and a moment only. So, um, so while we're doing that, and I apologize to those who are watching the recording, y'all let you know what the timing is of what time we waste on this, asking people questions. So, uh, okay, we got two cats on here, cats and dogs. I'm assuming in the dark that's cat making. Yes. Okay. You got backlit, so your face is dark. Uh, so Kat, let me ask you a question here. Um, what are you taking from these live sessions? Is this helping? Would you like to see something else, et cetera, et cetera? What are you taking from these?
Definitely, I like them because you kind of like stop and go more into depth and break stuff down. Um, so yeah, I like them.
Okay, are the subject matters pertinent to what you're doing?
Yeah, I was telling Nina the other day the one that was on licking, like I could have done that for like 3 more hours. It was fascinating.
Okay,
Um, and yeah, I
interesting.
had a few follow-up questions on that, but yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right. Well, Zephalinda, I don't know if you've been able to do the recordings and review those or not, but same questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the replays, to watch the replay, especially because English is more difficult for me to understand. So I like to review it again and again. And then all the
Sure.
time I learn something new. So it's really insightful and useful for me.
Okay.
What I really would like as an addition is more like examples or maybe even videos showing sometimes what you mean to.
Okay.
I like to visualize, but maybe that's something for me personally that sometimes
Sure.
that can be useful. Yeah.
Okay. I understand. I have wrestled with that in all of my classes for years about
Mm.
providing video examples. And I'm, it's a balance. It's either you have something in mind that you apply it to, and you're running the video in your own mind, or what I've found in not just in this, but in a number of other subjects that I teach, is when you provide a video, people look at that and that alone, and they don't translate it to their own experience. So there's a there's a possible conflict in actually showing them something that they see that as the example and not apply it to something that they themselves experienced. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. First of all, taking it could be short segments. I understand. I don't wish to take away the time from question answer as well as just lecture time. But so it's something I've been wrestling with for years. But I appreciate that input, and I will definitely look into that. So
Thank you.
my
Or even pictures, Nelson, would be
okay,
fine. like the subject we had on if dogs put a pause on something or touch something, they claim something. It's really nice to see exactly how that works.
That's
Or
right.
yeah, when another dog comes near to that dog, you showed some pictures from your dogs, and it was so insightful to see that connection, to see that communication between those dogs. So one is putting something, his paw on the subject, on the object, and the
I
other
see.
dog is like looking away, like, well, we don't do that, I'm not interested. So that's very
I see.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that input. I
Welcome.
will definitely look into that some more. Certainly in future talks. So okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, Mariella.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm very happy, pleased with them too, especially with the recordings, because I can look them afterwards.
Sure.
In my time, at my piece with
Right.
the English. But yes, I like them very much. Yeah, the licking, it was, yeah, so much. I wanted more, because I love that subject.
Yeah.
Because I think humans are thinking in such a small parts of that licking, and now it's so, so much. It was very fascinating.
It's all part of communication. It's how a dog thinks, and it gives you insight into their mind, into their thinking, into their intent, into their purpose, how they feel about the situation in that very moment. So, you know, by human thought of my dog loves me and is kissing me, it's a lack of respect for the attempt to communicate, frankly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it just my other dog, who had passed away now, never licked me, never came close to other humans or whatever. He had always was very respectful. He once licked a woman because she was pregnant. She licked her belly and nobody knew it, because she says, I said, oh, I'm sorry. And the lady told me, I guess he knows I'm pregnant, and nobody knows. It's still in such a small, it's early stage. And the second one, he licked me, and that brought me in tears, because you told me about that dog you were washing with ticks and the fleas. And the second time he licked me was when I put him asleep, and he gave me a soft lick on the cheek. If he was saying thank you, because he had that epileptic thing going on. That was during our RBBM1. I know if you remember, because then he had a seizure, and a few days later it's getting more and more, and I have to put him asleep. So that was the second time, and he licked me. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That was great info.
That's significant. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So thank you for that, because it feels heartwarming for me that I did the right thing. Yeah. Now I know what he meant.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Sharon.
I think I missed the question, but I assume you're asking about how we are reacting to these monthly talks. Is that the question?
Yes. Is it helpful? Is it pertinent information?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, helpful and pertinent, and like a couple of others have said, I listen to it when I can. When it's during the day, I can't do evening ones because I have classes. So I then have to listen to the recording. I take copious notes. I listen to it a couple of times. And what always amazes me is like today when I was just reviewing the 4 talks that we're going to talk about today, how much I miss. I just, like I hear you say it, I write it down. And then when I go back and review it a month or so later, I go, oh, I totally forgot that. Right? It's amazing how much information you're giving us in these talks. And I love it.
Okay. Well,
And Marielle, you just made me cry.
Hi, Sharon. Nice to see you through this Zoom. Yes, it was a very emotional thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some interesting experiences at end of life, points with dogs as well. Some that break my heart and others that warm my heart. So I understand. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Julie, are these things helpful? Are they pertinent to what you're doing, and et cetera, et cetera? I need some feedback from you guys.
Am I the only Julie?
You are.
Okay. Well, I've actually
at least here, yes.
right.
You're the only
I've
one
actually
that
missed the
counts.
past few ones just because of my schedule and stuff. Of course, my dog's barking now. But I heard the licking one was fantastic, so I need to go back and listen to it.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's a good reminder of the things that I already know, and then also just going into things more in depth and learning new things. So,
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Emily, nice to see you on here.
Not sure if you can hear me.
I can. Yes.
All right. Good. It's behaving today. I'm really enjoying them. I'm really enjoying the bite-sized tidbits, and that's not even true because there's so much information you're giving, like others have said, but one specific topic, and I feel like I can then take the information and all the notes that I've taken and see that in my life with my dogs and my clients' dogs, where so much information on different topics, sometimes it's harder to see each little thing. So I'm really enjoying them.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay. Jessica.
Let me pop on here. I'm enjoying them a lot. I like sitting down with my dogs and a cup of tea and listening. It's just been a good kind of break in the busyness of life and training and go, to just slow down and kind of remember some of these important things. And, going through course 2, I feel like I, learned a whole lot there and just changing kind of how I choose to be around dogs. And so just these monthly talks is just kind of like, yep, that's a good reminder. And, getting back in touch with that kind of that and learning a ton, like other people have said, specific subjects. Really, I love going in depth, like the more in depth, the better. The one on touch was super interesting too. I think because, people can relate to those things really well. But it's all been super interesting. I'm having trouble. Like Julie, I missed some of the last couple ones. But it's been really helpful. I'm enjoying them.
Okay. Well, good. I appreciate the feedback, guys. I really do. This isn't about sucking up. This is about actually getting, does this have value? I'll put it that way. So, Sveta, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
Yeah, I actually have some feedback too, but I haven't been watching so much. It's happening so much in stuff that's been happening. But I was going to my cousin 8 hours drive from here, and she has 2 dogs. and one 7 months old, and then another 14 years old. And it was chaos. She has had dogs all her life, but it was chaos.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 days and helping her, and we watched Threshold together.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
And she loved it, and I loved it too. But I was more prepared than she was.
Right.
With
Hopefully.
your
Yes.
teaching. Yeah. So it was an eye opener for her,
Okay.
and she's doing very much better with the dogs.
Good.
Controlling the dogs at home. We start there.
Yeah.
Start at home,
Yeah.
and bring it
Yes.
out. So.
Okay.
So I'm really enjoying, and I will go through the recordings and stuff, and try to keep up again.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Well, see that you do. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Well, good. Okay. All right. I
So
appreciate the feedback.
So you are teaching something, both special but also in a special way, and I think that's I think a lot of people enjoy it and see it from a different perspective, different way.
Okay.
Like just a threshold. Like I knew what threshold was. That was a door and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's more than
Yeah.
that, and it was
Yeah.
enjoying.
Thresholds are everywhere.
Yeah.
Transitions are everything.
Mm.
So yeah.
So when you were walking after watching the threshold session, we thought, oh, that was a threshold. No, this was a threshold.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Mm.
Yeah, just being underneath the shade of a tree and then going out, recognizing that difference.
Mm.
That's impactful, because the dogs themselves are very aware of that. They're aware of the environment, and we tend to not be.
Mm.
So yeah. Okay.
And I talked to her just now, and I came home from her 2 days ago, and she had the really problems with the young dog, which really going into prey drive and chasing cars, bikes, all that stuff. Really quick and a little bit nervous in the head, like looking around all the time.
Yes.
But now she said, well, today 6 cars passed, and she didn't, or he didn't do it. Kind of wow.
That's
so I
great.
said, well, when you start to work with the dogs like that, like controlling them, calming them down, things just disappears. Some things can just disappear. So
Right.
I don't know what it was, but it was a special thing that happened now.
Good. Good. You know, when you provide some, it all goes back to trust. It really goes back to trust. And when you're able to communicate with a different species and understand each other, that trust calms you down. Period. In everything.
Yeah.
So any help towards an understanding and a structure that you can live within, any direction that way, is going to help the behavior of the dog and the human.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
And just working with the dog helps, because you get another relationship.
Absolutely. Bingo. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you, sir. And it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah. Thanks.
Don't be a stranger. Other cat. Are you able to come on? I guess not. Okay. Lynn, I see you're on here. Hi.
Yes, hi. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out. Did that work? Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yes, I'm getting a lot out of these. I like, again, like everyone has said, I like that the talks are on one specific subject and delving very deep into that. I've not heard of that before. And so I'm a retired vet tech and dog trainer, but I still want to learn. And, you know, I still have dogs. I'm still going to have dogs. I'm still interested in dog sports and therapy, and still in that relationship with your dog. And so also I like to share this info with my husband. He's very interested. He was never a dog person until he met me, and he's really opened up and wants to learn more. So I like sharing that with him. So thank you for doing these.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. You know, without feedback, I don't know. I don't know what people are getting, whether it's worth it to them or anything else. Because a lot of the times, you know, I know what I feel I need to share based upon what I'm seeing, but when I don't get feedback from anyone, I wonder, is it worth it to anybody else? So I appreciate the feedback from all of you, actually. So thank you very much. Angela, I'm gonna throw it to you, lady. How do you feel about this?
You know what, it's a ditto pretty much of what everyone else said. You know, I just think that every time there's an opportunity to have discussion with you, with others, about dogs, about people, our brains, nose, eyes, ears, biology, physiology, nutrition, it's just an incredible opportunity to learn. And I just find it fascinating, you know, that things like particular, you know, everybody's talking about the last one, licking, which was so fascinating. That was really, really good, because there were several things that I didn't realize the importance of licking and the communication that's happening there amongst dogs. So I'm letting my dogs lick me now, not incessantly, but I am accepting it, as well as acknowledging it, and you know, connecting back with them, either with a touch or an eye contact or a bow of my head. And it's also helped me to realize the importance of the role that Thor, who you know, plays amongst my pack. And I continue to have more and more understandings of him, and just what a special dog he is, because he does like to lick. But now that I have a better understanding of licking and the meaning behind it, I have a better understanding of my dog Thor. So I just love all of these deep dives into these different subjects that we cover pretty lengthy in class, but just to go more in depth, I just find the information absolutely fascinating. I do think that, you know, it is, you know, I like Zephalinda's recommendation to provide either photos or videos, because, you know, most of the folks that are participating in this subscription have done classes with us, continue to do classes with us, and it does help to provide, you know, clarity at times, because I'm an experiential visual learner as well, and I do think that there is some advantages to that. So I'm a ditto on that one as well. So there you go.
Okay, thank you. And I see Rachel just popped on. So the question is, are the subjects, are you gaining stuff out of this, and what value is it to you?
Yes. The licking aspect was just recently with the dog that stayed with me. He was really licking his private area, so to speak, very more than usual. He has a tendency to lick himself quite often because of his nervousness or insecurity or whatever. But he was really licking like crazy, and I was thinking something is wrong there. And of course, he had in this delicate area, he had a tick. So because of that, because I was more aware of the licking, I was looking after it, and I could help him. And afterwards, he was back to normal, of course, when this little intruder was away.
Good.
I see things differently, like the transitions. What does it mean for the dogs? Like when I take them to my, let's say this, previously, or many dog owners are taking it just for granted that the dog does fine wherever they take them. But I'm more aware of, hey, this is a new environment, because I take dogs to the office that I'm working at, not all, but some of them, and I need to be aware not every dog settles at the same speed or at the same pace to calm down, right? So I need to be more aware of, hey, this is a new environment. It takes them longer, probably longer than being in my house where they used to be. So all the things is sticking with me. Thresholds too. Like recently with this boarding dog, as you know, we are living up in the mountains and coming up the hill. And then there was a balloon in hot balloon or hot air balloon. So, and he was really like staring at it.
Right.
So yeah, I realize more thresholds, so to speak, you know. Overall, I'm way more aware of what could happen to the dogs, or what could bother them. I'm more sensitive to, hey, you are looking there. Why are you not looking to me? And then I start to look where they are looking, or what scent do they have. I mean, I cannot smell the scent, but something takes their interest. So I want to know what is the interest.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
as long as they are interested in something else, it doesn't make sense to give them a command to sit or whatever, because they are not going to listen anyway.
Yes.
So, but when like today, I wanted to say goodbye to my daycare dog, and he's a Dachshund mix, and he was just like, and I said, he has something. And then, of course, up the wall, there was a cat, but this cat was so well hidden, like camouflaged. It's hard to see, but I knew something must be there. So I took my eyes and said, oh, okay, that's a cat. Come on, let's go this way. So, yeah,
Okay,
so
great. Good.
it's really, these classes are giving me more things to think about or to be aware of. And I think overall it makes me more attentive to the dog and the environment in general. So yeah, it's helpful for me, daily life with the dog.
Okay, thank you. So my evil plan is working on all of you.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Rachel. Okay. Well, without further ado, since we've already taken 30 minutes, I apologize for that. But I figured I'd take this opportunity for the cognoscenti, so to speak. So Angela, you kind of compiled some questions for me. Oh, hang on a second. I got to show you guys something. So this was a Christmas present for me. And it's actually a massage pillow. You have a little button here on the bottom of the foot that causes it to vibrate. So I'm using that on my back. So he's my little massage buddy. So first and foremost, what I'm saying, okay, so on transitions, there was a couple of questions, I guess. And I haven't looked these over, honestly, so I just wanted to kind of get raw information here and answer it as if I was being asked the question live. There was a short mention of the subject of crates in the recording of transitions with the promise of maybe elaborating the subject in the connection with the main topic later on. It was mentioned it is not suitable for longer periods of time or possibly never. Never explained why yet. Okay. So, wow. That could be its own subject right there. That's probably why I didn't go into it in depth, is the whole concept of crates, how you use them, when you use them, why you would use them, not just for management, which I think it's used mainly, especially by clients, not necessarily by trainers, but I think it's just managing the dog to get what you want in those cases. And I think we need to teach our clients something completely different about what the crate is. And it's not just about teaching it that it's a safe place, a good place, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, making that representation of that space for that dog. Problem with some of that is also there's problems on the other side where if you teach a dog that's your space, then it becomes very protective of that too against other dogs, even against you, depending on that dog and the relationship you have with it, if you're the trainer of that dog versus it's your own dog. So there's always 1,000 factors in every aspect of things. So it isn't one answer for anything ever. And I've got to be careful how I say this because I don't want anybody to misunderstand or misinterpret. I am not against other training systems, methods, etc. But relying on a formulaic way of doing things is to absolutely negate. And you can create, let me put it this way, you can create the dog your client wants. Is that really that dog? Are you looking at the dog itself? And how can you best have a life with that dog rather than just managing a dog for when the client wants to encounter the dog the way the client wants to encounter the dog? That's the question. And so not taking into account these thousands of other elements, there's nothing wrong with a crate. When, how you use it, for how long, all of those things, that's, that could be days of discussions on its own. And while I don't use crates myself, even for all the severe case behavior dogs that I ever had, I never crated one of them. And I had my reasons, obviously, to integrate that dog as quickly as I could. But being aware of all these other tiny little elements that I could help that dog negotiate its what seemed to be chaotic environment initially, and within the first 2 or 3 days, then it gets it and no problems thereafter. So crates, that's a huge subject matter in itself, just like any specific tool. If we talked about an e-collar versus a prong versus a martingale, a slip lead, one of the loop over the nose, all of those, each one of those tools is its own entire subject matter. And whether any of them are necessary and in what way and at what time. There's not enough time left in my life to talk about all of that. But we can try a few. It's about basically changing your perspective on, first, what is it we're doing? Then how do we do it? And then why? And it's always those three questions. Because once we do, we determine, okay, what are we doing? What are we using? What tool? What blah, 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 all of these things. Then how do we do this? And that dives deep. It's not just a matter of sticking a dog in a crate. What's the, what are we, then it goes back to what are we doing with the dog? Why are we putting it in that crate? So we go what, how, and why. And when we answer the why, that changes the what. What are we doing? Well, why did we do that? That tells us the what. Okay, how do we do that? Now, how and why changes the what again. So it's a constant change spiral. That's how you factor in the thousands of little things, is you're constantly doing the what, how, why, constantly. And if a dog responds a certain way, why did it respond that way? Well, that changes what we do with it and how we do it. So now it's not just you and all of those factors, it's the interaction between two things too, that particular dog, other dogs around it, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, how many years have I been asked to write books, and how many years have I tried to write a book that's like this thick right now? Literally thousands of pages. And it becomes an overwhelming thing. No one is going to be able to read the whole, you can't eat an elephant in one sitting. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. And so this is kind of the one bite at a time formulaic, if you will. So don't know that I'm going to be able to answer what you want. It may not be suitable. I don't know who asked this question. That there's no names on any of these, so I apologize. Crates are a useful tool for dogs that need it. If you need it, that's different. Why do you need it? If the dog doesn't need it. So you've got to understand where that's coming from, frankly. So I try not to separate, and that's literally what you're doing. Try not to separate dogs. Let me put it this way. So let me put it in these terms. Okay. And I know these are not wild canids, but some of them aren't domestic dogs either, as we've learned about Siberian Huskies and Eskimo dogs and et cetera, et cetera. Charlotte Squeezleys, those types of dogs, Thai dogs. Those are primal instinctual animals. And to barricade and separate one of those animals away from the pack, away from others by your actions can be misinterpreted by that dog and the other dogs, frankly. You are singling out that dog for action. I say if for trainers to use in clients, and I did this too, if you need to crate the dogs because the handlers, the clients themselves, are not capable of seeing all of those things yet and don't understand what's going on with their dogs and they're having fights, then yes, they must crate them at times, but you don't crate one dog against the others. If they all go in a crate together, then they see, and in the same room, they see they're all in the same condition. If you leave one dog out to sashay by another crate and go, nya, 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 I've got freedom and you don't, you're setting up an entirely different situation, and not a good one, frankly, most of the time. There's some times that does help and does work, but you got to know what you're doing on that. So it's either all crates, all dogs, or no crates, no dogs, and that can be in and out. Now, if a dog itself chooses to go into a crate and a designated spot, that's them saying, I need a rest. That's okay. In my household, Bosch will go under a desk or behind my chair or something like that to, well, one, to be around me, but two, to get away from the other dogs for a little bit. And that happens with all of them. Bella will go off into the dining area under the table and lay there for hours away from the rest of us. That's her choice, especially at 20 years old. She can do whatever she wants. Just living is an effort. So, okay. So I could spend the next 5 hours talking about crates, but I hope that answers a little bit of something. It's a whole subject matter in itself. So I don't mean to dismiss it or to not address things, but I hope that gives you a little bit of sense of things. Okay. I'm not understanding. There's sort of another, says, could we go over this in course 4 again? Is that, Angela, was that part of that same question?
No, that's just a request from Rachel when we get there a class for fundamentals class, if we could go into transitions a little bit more when we're there in October.
Reactivity in the light of transitions. Oh, you will see it.
Yeah.
We'll have 8 people and 8 dogs, and every minor movement's going to be an opportunity to see what goes on.
And I had a thought, when you first started talking about transitions or touching on a little bit earlier, when I think Svera may have been giving some feedback, and literally every movement, every step, every change of eye, where you like every teeny tiny thing is always a transition.
Yes.
It's just a matter of sometimes if there's an explosion that happens or a significant action or change that happens where we may not be aware of it, and we have to kind of take a few steps backwards to go, okay, why did that happen? Right. But literally every step, every movement, every change of your head, the dog's head,
one inch closer.
It's constant.
Yeah, it is. But just being made aware of that opens up the whole universe for you to begin understanding more about why something happens instead of guessing at it.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. Says overall, I'm way more aware of transitions in general in dogs and humans, how they bring in security with them. So that's a big learning point. Okay. All right. Thank you. So that was on transition. So licking. Okay. First question, where can I find more information about a dog licking a specific area on its body? Which is connected to another area where the dog is experiencing pain or discomfort. I'm interested in understanding the correlation between these 2 body parts. Okay. I know of no single source that is available. There are studies of humans on associated places on the body. So, for instance, a weird feeling in your inguinal, say lower intestine or spleen area associated with your left thigh, and you have a twitch or a weird little sensation in both spots at the same time. Those are those associated points, and there have been studies on humans of that, but none with dogs that I'm aware of. But what you do is you look at that fetal, as the fetus itself, actually as it becomes a fetus, as there begin to be body designations in apart rather than just a clump of cells. They start beginning to fold open. Then you begin to see that associated point, for instance, with the head, the legs, all of those things that start forming in those formative aspects. And you can see that those two nerve center points were associated at that point in time. So you could actually study that from that aspect. You know, you'll feel something in your back and you'll feel it somewhere else in your body too, some other part of your body. And if you know, studying, for instance, Chinese method of we'll say medicine, you start looking at meridians and all of those associated pieces too. So there's no one source, unfortunately, that I particularly know of. There may be, but I don't know about that. I guess my background of, you know, more than 50 years of almost 6 decades of martial arts and athletics and all that stuff I've learned. And of course, through the study of those Eastern martial arts, I've had to study body formation, restorative massage, and the associated parts, how you literally prevent death or serious injury through different things when there's accidents or damage, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things kind of mesh together in my mind. But so there may be studies out there. I don't know them all. I'm always honest with you guys. So I hope it's one of those things where like much of what I try to share, I won't say teach, I'll try to share. It's the compilation of everything that I've studied over all my life now. So it's the associations of putting the different studies and pieces together over 50, 60 years of time that I'm trying to share with you guys. I don't know, someone else may have put something together that's more straightforward on it, but I am not aware of those. So if you find them, please share that with us. Okay. Could you describe how we humans could integrate the motherly licking into training and under what circumstances? The state of mind of the dog. That could be a very valuable contribution to the training process. Okay. And it continues, how to make sure it is used properly and not overdone. There you go. Could the motherly licking taught properly be an approach for dog owners who are overly affectionate toward their dogs, so the affection becomes more meaningful for the dog and the owner can still show affection? Okay, so I'm going to stop there. It goes on. I'm going to stop there and say several things. Number one, contrast is clarity. The more you do something over and over and over and over again, the more it becomes just background. So if you're constantly petting a dog or giving it affection in some way, the dog comes to expect that and doesn't even notice it most of the time. They notice the absence of it. And so the absence of it can be a powerful tool. And then when they get it, which is in a proper way of, for instance, the motherly licking aspect of giving affection, actual affection, the way dogs understand it, not the way humans feel it. So the eyes, ears, muzzle, you know, behind the ears, those sorts of things, of that cleaning aspect, that stimulation aspect, then the dogs are, and then it becomes significant to the dog and the person to give approval. Approval isn't necessarily a exercise or behavioral specific. In other words, the dog doesn't have to do something for that. They can simply be in the right state of mind in the right location, and you want to tell them, yes, I agree with you through that affection. And it can be something as simple as just one simple swipe across an eye. That's it. It doesn't have to be prolonged. It should not be prolonged. Doesn't make any sense. Because you aren't licking them, you're not cleaning them, you're not doing all these things. Okay, so it's not a full body massage essentially. Okay, so yes, the contrast, that's number one. So if you can get a client or anyone who overly affectionates a dog from their standpoint, from wanting that, needing that contact, that touch, and start respecting the dog, and then giving approval, the affectionate approval at appropriate times, that's significant. So it's appropriate timing and equivalence in how dogs feel about that, not how humans feel about that. So it reserves the giving of those signals of that touch, that licking touch aspect. And the reason I talked about touch before and licking later was because they're related in some ways. So that equivalence of, for the dog, I go back to, before we got into the Institute fairly heavily, I would say up to the last 3 or 4 years, I would probably spend 200-300 hours on the phone with a couple of hundred trainers worldwide, them calling me up, asking me questions about either problems they had with their own dog or some client or whatever else. I don't spend as much time, although I still get those calls every once in a while. The answer always came back to, how does that dog see it? And how does that dog see survival? It's not about the human side of it. And so if you can actually think in terms of how that dog feels about X, whatever X is, the environment, your interactions with it, et cetera, et cetera. If you think of it on terms of the dog's side, not your side, you will find the answer. And that seems to be difficult for a lot of humans. It helps that I'm only half human, I guess. I don't know. Just kidding. So, okay, so the continuation on that question. How common is the motherly licking occurring between adult dogs? Good question. I know you've mentioned Callie doing it. Does it occur more often or only among familiar dogs? So for dogs who not all dogs do it. Not all dogs receive it. Some dogs use it specifically to calm another dog, to try to relate to them, to give them different aspects of what licking means to them, not always submission and not always motherly love. Some dogs are not, first of all, two major areas. So let's look at the extremes. So the dogs that use licking as a submissive thing to say, I'm not a threat, when the rest of their behavior shows that to that dog, and that particular dog's understanding of its submissive licking to show I'm not a threat, please don't attack me, I'm, et cetera, et cetera. The other dog sees it as, we would put it, submissive or in a lower place than that dog, when in fact it's just negotiating the way it sees survival. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's putting itself underneath that dog in the way it thinks. And it could be a very manipulative dog doing that. On the other extreme end is the one that says, hey, I'm in charge of everybody's behavior. I'm going to show you. I'm going to lick your face until you stop growling at that other dog, or I'm going to stand over your head like Kelly does to dogs that want to kill another dog. She'll walk over the top of them and go, "No, you're not going to do that." And they go, "Okay." Never seen a dog do that as well as Callie and not get killed doing it. So it's just, she's an amazing dog. She's the reason, that's the reason I got her in the first place, was her taking care of potentially very bad situations just by being present. And she's an amazing dog to study. So, and I can't believe she's 11 years old now. Anyway, so you've got those two extremes, and the ones that are expert at it, like Callie, those are rare, extremely rare. I've seen very few dogs that are capable of walking into any situation and without threat, without anything else. It's just their presentation of themselves, their character, their intent, and look at one, look at another, and they both back off. And there's no threat whatsoever. It's just, hey, I'm just reminding you, we're going to get along here. You know, there isn't a request. It's a very soft demand. The way I put it is cotton over steel. So, and then there's dogs that don't accept it, that don't ever do it to others. They may be self-contained, they may be self-confident, and use other demonstrations and communication to other dogs that they will never use the licking aspect. So much as in puppyhood, as the siblings are all figuring out what they do, what part, etc., just like canids in the wild, they will figure out what works best for them in life to survive best. So there may be a few that are on that spectrum, on that end, and a lot others that aren't. Others use what we would call dominance behaviors because it's worked for them up to a certain point. So there's a lot of different behaviors that happen. So it's not common, but I'll challenge you guys to look for those behaviors. Actually, the lipping or lip licking, the tongue hanging out, trying to calm yourself down, that's licking also, but it's doing it to yourself. It's calming yourself. So it comes from the same place. The other dogs recognize that. It is not a signal outward consciously from dogs. It's the dog doing it to themselves, going back to the puppyhood of mother calming them and et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. I hope that explains some of it. Let's see, what other traits are such dogs showing in their behavior and supporting their motherly licking? I think I talked about that a little bit. How is insecurity in dogs and their licking of humans connected? Once again, that's the submissive, I'm not a threat. Humans are usually in a dominant position of standing up. If you notice, the second you squat down, the dog, you become much more approachable to the dog, and less of the licking happens. Or they come up to you to go ahead and lick at that point because you have put yourself in a position where you are not a potential threat height wise, in other words, dominating the landscape, so to speak. So that's one element of it. Do they need more reassurance that they're human is still the same? In some cases, yes. Let me give you an example. So one of those areas that I'm going to talk about next month, which is the pulmononasal organ and the scent aspect, which is, I'll give you an example of Bosch. Every morning, once I take a shower, I go in, I do my things, I put my pants on. Bosch comes over and sniffs my pants. And he sniffs it in the same place every single time, which is at my knee that I had surgery on. So that he gets the knee smell in relationship to what that pair of pants smells like, the materials, all that stuff. So that's very similar in that reassurance of who are you? Who are you today? What's your smell today? How do I identify you when we're out there versus all the other smells out there when we're walking around into a restaurant or wherever else? So that's what he's doing, is he's identifying me each and every day by that smell. Same thing can happen with the licking, because we change constantly because of our emotions and all of the, everything, literally our neurobiology, all of that, how much salt is in your sweat, the types of chemicals, all of those things, you're changing constantly. So the dog may have to, the licking may be, obviously part of the smell is the taste. Now, dogs, remember what we were talking about, the dogs don't have the same number of taste buds that we do. So it's more about scent than it is the taste. So they're corroborating by making that touch on someone with the tongue. They're corroborating what they're smelling in you. Okay. So that's more about what it's about, frankly. Is there a recognizable difference in the licking pattern intensity between I lick you to know who you are and I lick you to calm you down? Definitely a different pattern. The one is a quicker, shorter, hey, calm down. I want your attention, versus let me taste what's going on with you. Okay. So you can see those differences. That's a simple, it's a simple answer. It's always more complex than that, but I don't have that time. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now we're on touch. Gosh, I know I'm going way over, Angela, but we spent the first 30 minutes, so people can forward through all of that stuff.
I'm gonna, just so you know, I am departing from the call
Okay.
in about 7 more minutes. I have to go.
I understand. Okay. Okay, so calming touches from human to dog, would they mainly apply around the head and ears? No. Like the dog mom would have done for cleaning, are there specific techniques of touch you would recommend? Tons of them. What does a touch do? The initial thing is it breaks the brain from whatever it's focused on to that moment in time where something touches your body. You do the same thing. Someone touches you anywhere on your body, your brain instantly goes to that spot. So it breaks your concentration from whatever it was you were doing for that moment. Now, the aftermath is the most important part. So I use touch to break the brain from a disagreement or a reaction to something, or hey, let me get your attention. We need to focus over here. So I can use a touch in a number of ways, thousands of ways, frankly, in different locations. And it depends on the dog, the appropriate situation. It's always, how am I actually going to get that dog's attention, to what level? So you need to understand that dog and what's appropriate to just enough and no more. If you overdo it, then it becomes a shock. And it also means if you touch to this level instead of that level after you've done that several times, now the dog doesn't pay attention to you. So you've actually, you critically trained that dog to not respond or think about it until you're at this level instead of at any point. So make sure you don't get into habitual things of just because you touch a dog, the dog should pay attention to you. Won't happen if you are not sophisticated with that, if you're not skilled with that. For skill, I think, is way misunderstood. Skill in your capability of communicating is trying thousands of different things and seeing what the results are over many years of time. And the skill aspect of the way humans think of precision. What happens when precision becomes art? It's natural. It looks like that person's done it all their lives and just effortless. That's what you want to get to, guys. But it takes the conscious effort to see how this touch, to what level, to what spot, all of those things. I could give you categories of things on the body and how dogs react and different dogs and all that. That's, probably 500 lectures. But so more efficient use of time if you start experimenting. One area that I did caution about was a dog you don't know, or a dog that does react poorly in some situations, or a dog that's already heightened and you touch at the back, the tail area, not the tail itself, although could be, but somewhere in the back area with a dog that you don't have complete trust with, they're going to turn rapidly to disagree. And that is a disagreement, regardless of what else they do. It's like, hey, I didn't give you permission to do that. Okay. It's like a human coming up to you that you don't know or trust and, putting their hand around your waist and starting to walk with you. And you go, whoa, don't do that. It's the same exact thing, the same feeling. So it is about the levels of trust that you have for areas of touch. And I think, let's see. So are there specific techniques of touch you would recommend? Thousands, yes. And then claiming versus owning. Can claiming change into owning? Yes, it can. And does owning include claiming? Yes, they're the same. It's the flip side of the same coin. You can belong or you can belong to. Neither is wrong. It's to what level and what the intent is behind it. How to describe the difference to an owner, as it seems to be a very subtle difference. It is and it isn't. It's the rest of the behavior of the dog. If the behavior of the dog is, we'll call it, for lack of a better term, protective of the owner. In other words, I own you. You're my bone, and I'm going to keep everybody else away from you. Even by subtle things like a dog. Oh, I'll give you a good ownership aspect that is part of what Bosch does. Even today, went to Quick Trip this morning to get my coffee. I do that every morning, generally. Okay, go in there. Bosch and I walk in together. He's on. Well, he's always working, so he goes in. I've got a 1 foot traffic, lead on him because I don't want to get a long leash in the way when I drop it or have to mess with it any other way. So we go in, I walk in, get the coffee cup, drop the leash. He places himself where he needs to, sits, watches everybody else, make sure that they go by rather than at me. I'll get my coffee, the whatever aspects. I have a mix of things that I do, and then I go over to the counter and he places himself one side or the other of me. So we'll go up to the counter, he placed himself one side. Another guy came up further down over on the other part, and he walks around and places himself between me and him. So a lot of people could interpret, okay, well, he's protecting you, owning you against me, but he's my partner. That's different. As a service animal, he's my partner. He is protecting me. He's blocking people from getting to me. So he's preventing any problems happening, which is a good thing. And I'm talking to the guy, I explained to him what goes on. He goes, "That's a pretty smart dog." I said, "Yes, he is." And he does that on his own accord. I didn't, quote unquote, train him to do that. I did by agreeing with those positionings that he gave me. But we did no specific exercise to drill him into doing that. He took that upon himself. He experimented with positioning, and I agreed with those positions and times. So we communicated as to what's acceptable and what's not. When he gets too far away from me, in other words, when he blocks people way far away, I call him to me and he comes closer, and then he'll sit, but he won't come up against me because he's showing the other people. They don't know it, but he's showing the other people, give him space. So he's actually creating space for me through his behavior. So that's one aspect of that claiming, owning, all that stuff, and belonging. Okay. I don't know if that answers what you want. The subtle differences, though, are the rest of the behaviors around the dog. So there are good times of protection. There are others that aren't, such as a dog blocking another dog or another human simply by walking by and creating that space and saying, "No, this is my human," when the dogs are in the same supposed household. So that as a continuous basis is not a good thing, because now you've got a dog that sees itself in a position above you, making determinations for the rest of the dogs for that positioning. So you got to be careful on those things. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's some aspect of it. Okay, touching the tail. You've mentioned, well, I kind of, okay, you've mentioned it is rather rude to touch the tail. If you don't know that dog, yes. And you will certainly get the attention of that dog if you touch the tail quickly, because they're going to go, "Whoa, what's going on back there?" So you can get the attention of the dog by touching a tail. I wouldn't do that to a dog I don't know. Now with a very reactive dog who finds it very rewarding to react to moving subjects and uses the whole length of the leash to run towards the trigger and carrying the tail up high. Okay, that's a lot of information there. I do apply a gentle but firm touch to the tail base. So he needs to take the tail down. Yeah, I do too. I'll stick a finger right at the base of the tail and go, no. And I may even do this. If the tail's up, I may even do this, and the tail comes down, and it does change their mind. Got to be careful how you do that. And it's part demand and part request. And you have to have that intent in you. Otherwise, the dog takes it not necessarily incorrectly. They're just going to take it as more of who the hell are you to tell me what to do type of thing. And humans are not used to thinking in terms of request versus demand, because especially as trainers, we're told we got to make the dog this way. And that's where I find that balance really is lacking, is in that we force dogs to do things outside of their own personalities, frankly. Sometimes that's necessary because of timing more than anything, but it's overused in my humble opinion, but that's just my opinion. I do apply a gentle but firm touch to the tail base, so he needs to take the tail down. This seems to influence his brain and reducing his reactivity. Yes. My thoughts are that due to the touch, he refocuses on something else. Absolutely. Everybody does. You touch, then information. That's no different than giving a sound or a movement signal and then giving information. You're breaking the brain from whatever it's doing to focus on, okay, here's a warning order. A warning order is a snap, a touch, a leash tap, whatever. That's a warning order. It's saying more information is coming. Pay attention, brain. And that's what you're doing. You're getting that. And that, for those of you guys who've been on the online where you see that eighth quarter, half second pause of reaction time on something, you've got about no more than a half a second to clearly go from transitioning from touch or warning order or anything else, sound, whatever it is, you break the brain from, to give them information, or their brain goes back to what they want. They're not going to pause and look longingly at you for a minute waiting for information. Okay. They will go on with whatever they are. Doesn't mean they won't understand what you're trying to communicate to them even minutes later. And that's been proven over and over again in experiments. But the clarity is what we're looking at, because clarity is more important. And clarity without a hammer is much more effective than just doing the hammer. Okay. So it's that timing. You need to be ready with what that information is. So something happens and you touch, you better have the information of what you want to do. You want that dog to do instantly already before you even make the touch, because you got about a half a second to continue once the dog goes, yeah. And if you've got nothing, they're going to go, I don't care. This is more interesting or more important. Okay. So that's the timing on that. At the same time, I turn my body into him to turn him away from the trigger. That's okay. That's double signals. Does it need to be that obvious? To some dogs, initially it does, but you want to fade out. Fading out signals like that to trust the dog to get it. In other words, if you're constantly badgering at the same level, they're going to shut you out. So in other words, it has to be, okay, emphatic at first, and then, hey, I'm reminding you, hey, okay, it's softer, it's softer, it's softer. And then finally you just go, or hey, they go, okay. So you're trusting the dog, which gives the dog significance in itself and trust. They understand the trust in them, which then they can give you more trust itself. That's hard when humans have trouble communicating with dogs or understanding their communications back to us. So we just hammer. We just use that hammer and smash those nails, those screws, whatever it is in front of us, we just smash that hammer. So the more you can be subtle about things, the more that dog trusts you, because their universe is in subtleties, as you've learned. Okay. Just like ours are. So yeah. So what you're doing is you're setting up expectations. And so what I want to show a dog is I may have to go, okay, here, and get the result. Next time, hey, I'm reminding you, it's a little softer. Okay, next time, remember. Okay. And then it's here. Then it becomes, you're asking them for that to become part of them, part of that behavior of a different response. You will never get it by doing this. You will never get it by doing that. What you're doing is crushing a dog. Okay. And you're not getting trust, you're getting compliance. And while compliance may be great for 90% of people and dogs, that's there's other ways. Let me put it that way. And they're deeper and they're better overall. And you know, can I prove it? Yes, I can. So okay, I hope that answers a little bit there. Thresholds are moving subjects, cars, bicycles, etc., also considered thresholds? Absolutely, because they changed the status quo. Now that can go into transitions, but a threshold isn't just a physical spot. Sound, wind change, temperature change, all of those things can be threshold points that change the mind of the dog. Okay. And the reason I covered thresholds first before transitions was because thresholds is that much of this whole thing of transitions. So they're part and parcel. They're one of the same. So yes, moving objects can be thresholds, especially, for instance, you walk out the door and a car in your driveway is backing up. Well, that's a massive threshold position right there. Okay, because now you're opening up space that wasn't there before, and there's a moving object. So, how to get a dog to use random thresholds, which I cannot influence. Okay. So in parentheses, I have a hot air balloon in mind that is far away in the air. Dog is hyper focused on it. Circling is not really bringing him out of this focus, and the balloon is usually still there. Gotcha. Okay. So one of the things that you would do with something beyond any, first of all, that is not normal. Things don't just hang in the air other than clouds, right? And it probably makes noise with uh, the fuel that they do to keep in some position. So it makes noise every once in a while. It's something that doesn't occur normally, and dogs are much more hyper aware of environment than we are. We know it, we accept it, we go, yeah, okay, it's a balloon, so what? The dog's going, oh my God, it's an alien thing. It's hanging up there. Is it going to kill us? How does it affect everything? There's a threshold right there. And so what I would do is create a situation where I can teach the dog that this doesn't bother me. So I'd squat down, I'd look up at the dog, I'd look at the dog, and if the dog is hyper focused, that tells me something right there. If it kind of glances over at me, or you see a break in the brain and kind of checking with me, and I go, yeah, that's kind of interesting. My intent, my attitude about it changes the intensity of that dog hyper focused on that. So it's about, one of my sayings about either you influence the dog or the dog influences you. I don't deliberately allow dogs to affect me. I'm the one trying to provide the guiding behavior for them. So my behaviors will always influence them. That's what I focus on. And so my intent would be to go, yeah, that's interesting, buddy. Huh. Let's go forward a little bit. And so we go and we look up and I squat down again. And then we go over here and then I start working on some other things and get the dog's focus on it. So it becomes background information. It's just the dog, that's another incident to allow dogs to gain trust in a human. And every opportunity you have to do that is very important for dogs to gain trust in humans, not just in yourself, but in humans in general. And exposing them to new things in the environment is massive because they are hyper aware of the environment and everything in it. Okay. So that's one way. That's, it depends on the dog. I'd have to see the dog. I'd have to work with that particular dog. If it's barking, if it's yapping at it, jumping up, all that stuff, I'd go, hey, let's go play, let's do this. I'd not to distract and not to take that away from the dog, but to associate with something that dog can and will do, and to disassociate that that's a potential threat or exciter. It's about us. You can't get to that. So let's not, that becomes, as an exciter, no different than a laser thing would be, or the dog never gets that action of the laser. It's just a chase. So that becomes a chase. Well, why is that exciter important to that dog? Is that you're not doing enough to occupy that brain to where it uses that, just like people use the laser, pointer for the same purpose. So the dog goes nuts trying to get that little red dot, which it can never get, which is a frustrating thing. And if you want to know how to build drive in a dog, get it frustrated. Because it will continue to go nuts on it. So that's how you do it with working dogs, with sport dogs, all of that stuff. So okay. So I hope that helps a little bit. How to deal with personal thresholds and how to teach clients how they can deal with them better. Personal thresholds, not quite sure, but also for myself, how to not build up thresholds, tensions. Okay. With reactive dogs, which are reacting to almost everything, to be prepared for their outburst, but not paying into it by expecting the outburst. Seems to be a very thin line, and I'm not there yet, but I can manage it always in a positive way. That, my friend, whoever said that, is part of the whole game. You're, once again, influencing the dog, not letting the dog influence you. A study of quick reaction, and by reaction, I don't mean explosion, speed, or anything else, is in your own behavior, in your own mindset of something happening, and it's just business. I've got to take care of this way. And it's not sternness, it's not anger, it's none of that. It's simply the mind clicks and goes, I need to go to work. That's what you study. How instantly you can just go, I'm providing an answer for you. That's not the right answer. And done. That's it. So the practice of that on your own, the awareness of it, so that you don't become tense or anything else, is you are in a calm state as much as you can possibly be, regardless of what situation you're walking into. That's about the highest level that you can get of anything, of any study of anything, is you being calm, composed, focused. Okay. I'll give you an example. One of the best drivers, other than Manuel Fangio, was Michael Schumacher. And Michael Schumacher, Formula One driver. The reason he was so good was because of his composure and his concentration. He never lost concentration. You would watch him drive for hours, and he would simply take advantage of those who tried little tricks and things and always lost concentration. This corner, that corner. He just outweighed them and move ahead. It wasn't about the confidence, it was about his concentration, his constant focus. And that's really that composure that I talk about, is what it is. So composure, calmness, whatever you want to call it, you're here constantly. And then again, the contrast of this versus that is very obvious to the dog. So in communication, that's really what you're doing. So a dog that is reactive becomes influenced by you and begins to trust that you've got this because nothing bad has happened with you. That's how I've always worked with dogs with bite histories and stuff like that. You know, I most all of the time I've never had a problem with a dog that's multiple bites on multiple people. And I take them, you know, and put them in my house or whatever else, and I never have a problem with them. And these are really severe dogs, but they see that composure, that nonplussed, nothing bothers you. I got this. Don't worry about it. And they go, ah, I can trust that guy. That's really where you want to get. That's a self-learning thing, and a concept. And again, I go back to, I apologize, anything that is physically, mentally difficult. If you practice that, you're going to get more and more that way. I use martial arts that way. You can use throwing darts. You can use anything that has a lot of physical skill, ability, and the composure in the head to perform. It could be bowling. I don't care what it is, you know, but practice those things. Something that resonates with you, that gets you the composure. Playing guitar professionally, whatever it is that creates that continuum. You can't have, you know, excitatory emotions and do well at anything, because then the emotions control you, not your other. Okay. Well, I don't know if that helps or not. Probably not. I apologize if it doesn't. If a dog is barking, lunging towards another dog from far away, 50 yards or more, would that be considered territorial even if it's on a walk? No, it just sees it as a threat. Quasi-territorial is if you go in those areas 3 or more times in a short period of time, and you know, in a couple of weeks' time. If you do that spot 3 times in a year, it's really not your territory. You're just kind of visiting it. So it's not even extraterritorial jurisdiction. But if you're constantly going to that same spot, that becomes territory. Now, if you see a dog from, you know, 50 meters, 50 yards away, and it's anywhere, that dog's simply responding to the potential threat that it doesn't trust that other dog. And it may be it doesn't do it to every dog, but it sees that dog in a certain way. Well, it tells you something about both the behavior and personality of the dog you're with and the other dog. Because I used to get all the time with clients, why does my dog always respond to this one dog? Well, probably because it's signaling stuff that your dog disagrees with. So, no, it doesn't always have to do with territory. It has to do with how that dog sees as a threat. And again, going to thresholds, if we have our transitions, if we go in an area where we're not used to, everything is a potential threat because you don't know. That's the way the dog looks at it. Everything's a potential threat. It's not the same. So that's what you've got to look at. What does a dog get out of it when he almost strangles himself at the end of the leash to reach a trigger? Obviously, he does rather choose that than being on loose leash. What's going on chemically in the brain? Okay, well, there's several questions there. And this is the last one, by the way. So that drive to get to that trigger, we'll say, whatever it is, that's the lower part of the brain. It involves some aspects of the upper part of the brain, the cerebral cortex as well. But those are feedback loops, but the lower brain is controlling that. So chemically, in other words, what it does is the brain is in a survival mode. And when you yourself go into survival mode, it's because you don't understand that situation. you distrust it. If you're practiced at that and it's something that you enjoy doing because you get a dopamine rush afterwards, then that becomes practiced survival, which happens a lot of the times in sports and things like that. Then it becomes a reason for doing it. So if it's long-term practice, that's different than just a reaction to these different triggers, because this dog sees a situation that it's fearful of, it doesn't understand, it doesn't even have to be fearful or doesn't understand. It doesn't like it and it disagrees with the situation it's in. So you have to back up and see why that was triggered that way. Now, here's the other half of the equation, is the human part. So the person hanging on to this is creating the tension as well, right? So if I can literally just walk up the leash, don't pull the dog back, because that's just building that much more anxiety and drive. Walk to the dog and go, hey, buddy, I don't see that. Come on, let's go do this. You're not distracting your dog, you're redirecting the brain to something else. You want your interaction to be more important than anything else out there. That's what relationship-based training is all about, is that the human they're with, that partner, becomes more important. Them trying to influence you to go after that is not going to work. And that's what they learn from that. So, short answer on a very long question. But that's the whole study of relationship-based training, frankly, is to how to get that dog to trust you enough to not do those things. And that's what we study a lot of. And it could be, each dog is entirely different, each situation, each trigger is different. But there are generalities, and the generality is the dog can trust me enough to say, I don't care about that. Let's do something else that's more important and better for us. So, and how you do that, the touch, the leash, the interest, hey, let's go do this over here, all that stuff. Make sure you are not yanking the dog away, because that's defeat. You're saying, I'm weak. The dog goes, but I can go get this thing. So you're defeated, and it's going, I disagree with that. So you're creating a wider gap between you and that dog. So instead, if I come up and I join the dog there and I go, yeah, I just don't see this. What's the big deal, buddy? Let's go do something else. That's a much easier way to influence that dog than to yell at it, poke it, yank the leash, all the other things that the dog is going to disagree with, even heavier. How do you agitate a dog? And that's what you're doing, is agitate. That's what they do, is agitate these dogs to get them to bite, to do all these other things, is to hold them back and get that anticipation. And if we just walk up to it and go, hey, what are you all excited about? They go, huh. Okay. And that gets them to trust you in a different way. Okay. So that's the last one that I see here. We're way over time. I apologize, of course. I hope that helps. I hope that answers some of the questions in some way. It's difficult to get really in depth on a lot of these, because each one of these questions could be their own subject matter, as you're beginning to see, each little tiny thing. So I thank you for your time, your patience. I hope I've answered something or triggered something in you guys. Okay. Appreciate it. Oops, where am I here? There we go. And I see actually Shelley and someone else have joined us. So can always go back and watch the recording. I will tell you, I'll warn you guys, first 30 minutes are just us talking back and forth. So you can skip the first 30 minutes if you want to. So anyway, all right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you. I'll see you
Bye-bye.
next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Adios.